Abbey Day, and we're going to be exploring today about how to use art to foster social emotional learning. And I'm very excited. You'll see there's materials on your table. This morning is designed so that we have some information, but then you also have a chance to experience, like be the student and get your hands literally a little bit dirty. So, just a bit about me, that is me. I have always been surrounded by art. I've always loved art. I've noticed that through time that when I'm nervous about something or feeling sad, that it's the art that helps me process through that, which is very fascinating because I now have a 4-year-old who came to that own conclusion on her own. I've been working at Mid-Pacific Institute for the last 7 years in the role of art education specialist, as well as the character education specialist for our 5th graders. Prior to that, I worked at the Hong Museum of Art. My master's degree was actually in how museums can be socially responsive to their communities. So I've been engaged in this kind of SEL work for a very long time and figuring out how it is that we can integrate it into our classrooms. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm curious how you are doing today. And each of you is going to be receiving, this is an emotion wheel. This is something that I didn't know existed until literally last year to help us name our emotions. I'll let you know how our students used this past year as well. I'm going to distribute these. If you would, choose some colors to color 3 to 5 of the emotions that you're feeling right now. I will tell you there is like a typo here that my 5th graders found, so maybe you'll look closely enough, you'll find it as well. And then as you're doing this, perhaps think about the colors that you would associate with that emotion, as well as any kind of line that's there. So at your table settings, there are color pencils. You're welcome to share those. There's also watercolors. And for our watercolors, it's like, how am I going to get water into there? And then I remembered we all carry on water, so maybe you'll graciously donate a little bit from your water into some of those tofu containers, and you can color like that, okay? Before we get into that though, because we are all moving kind of quickly, myself too, if we could take just a moment to sit with our feet on the ground, with your spine nice and tall, your hands either resting on your lap or on your table. If you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to. If not, you just kind of look down and let your vision get a little bit blurry. Good. And then for just the next few moments, watching as your inhalations kind of fill you, feeling a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. How your exhalations release and relax. Just for these first few moments, just noticing how the breath changes the shape of the physical body. And then having grounded, having settled here for just a minute, we'll go ahead, we'll open the eyes, and then you'll come to see which of these words stand out to you. And just like in my art classroom, there's one of me and many of you. So if at any time I ask for your help to distribute materials, I will use you. Thank you. If you're in need of a paper, you didn't get one, raise your hand. I'd love to give it to you.
Oh, that's fine.
So you're coloring in 3 to 5 of them. 3 to 5 of them with how you're feeling right now. Yes? Yeah.
I think words that the most you know in the
Yes.
comments.
Are you talking about 3 to 5 in the entire high piece or on the outer end, or are you talking about the
a great question. Which area do you have to color? Any of the words that come to you. So if you are more in just like, I'm generally happy, then you can color generally happy. If you feel like hopeful is a word that stands out to you, feel free to color that. So there's no rules about what areas in which you need to color. Any 3 words that stand out to you.
Easy, just put some here, yeah? Am I doing it right? Conserve water.
I'm spelling it right.
See some sharing of materials happening. Hooray.
Hold on, yours is spun the other way. Hold on. Right there. That just popped out.
So you're coloring 3 to 5 words that stand out to you how you're feeling right now. You're welcome to use either the watercolors or the colored pencils.
Stand up.
Emotions. Yeah. Oh, happens here. Hi.
Yep.
Am I not recognizing it? No, just kidding. Just started.
Come on in. If there's an extra seat next to you, looks like there's one here. Looks like there's one up here. Three to five.
3 to 5.
3 to 5. And if you're like, I really need that 6th one, color the 6th one. It's okay.
I just need it.
I have to go through my privileges. You got it to go.
It's not as neat and pretty as
I thought
Yours are like mine. They're worse. You were the earth tone.
Okay. It's not, it's something else, but that's okay. I think I have to.
Maybe somebody has it.
Okay, we're going to take about 1 more minute of identifying our emotions. Does anyone have an extra wheel on their table? Yes, thank you. Thank you.
We're supposed to come 3 to 5 that you're feeling.
All right, we're going to keep moving because we have a lot of stuff that we're going to go through. So I hope that you were able to have a moment to check in with yourself If we were in a smaller space, we would have the opportunity to share with either the whole class or with your small tables. You can identify the things that we're similarly feeling or the things that we are not. I know that with my students, a lot, and myself even, a lot of times we don't quite know what the feeling is. And so they'll start more at that center area, right? Like a little bit more generalized feelings. And then from there you can kind of parse out like what are some of those things that they look like? How does it feel? What does it even mean to feel awe, right? You can have a whole inquiry on what do these feeling words mean. These are some images, one from one of our 5th graders. They each have a journal in which after we meditate, since I teach character education too, after we do a meditation, they go in and they log either their feeling, they might write a small thing that stood out to them about the meditation, they might draw something. And so this actually lives on the inside cover of their journal, so it's always there and accessible to them. I have dreams of turning these into stickers and sticking them on their water bottles so that when they're at recess and their tensions are a little bit higher, that they've got a quick resource right there and they can always go back to it to help identify how they're feeling and then where to move from that. Okay, so what's our main kind of plan today? This is a very big overview of some of the things that we're going to be looking through. Primarily how to build confidence through art making. After we build confidence, we'll move into some mindful practices. And then we'll do some community building and some self-inquiry that you just had a small little taste of as well. This circle down there in the bottom, that is from the National Standards on Social Emotional Learning. So all of these things are tied into that. I would make, so spoiler alert, I feel like the thesis of this presentation is that all art is social emotional learning. Yay! And that all art hits on all of these parts of social emotional circle. So we're going to kind of test some of those today. Yeah, but it's all rooted in that. Okay, how to foster. The first thing I always start with is how you build confidence in your students. Because a lot of times students will come in, they have parents who have had their own educational experiences with art, where either they've been told that they're not an artist, or they've been told that they're not good, or a personal story from mine. I was in 1st grade. This is like how amazing these things set into your brain. I was never told that I wasn't a good artist until 1st grade. And we had, you guys know, like giant butcher paper. We made a whale. There were 2 sides to it, and then they put stuffing in it. They were going to hang it in the hallway. So everyone was coloring it, right? It was all crowded. I went around the other side, and I started coloring it this way when everyone else was coloring it this way. And my teacher came down on me and said that I was making it look bad. And like such a small little thing makes such a huge impact. We talk about, right, we just heard about that sense of belonging and being told you can do it, right? Our words really matter. So throughout, as we're creating today, I'll be trying to model as well how I talk to students about their artwork, what it feels like, what it sounds like in the art studio when we're creating. And a lot of that is celebrating their perseverance. It's celebrating their effort. I was at a session earlier this year where there's another art teacher said, I just don't know what to say to my students when they bring something up to me. And I just say, wow, you've worked so hard on that. And is not quite sure what to say. So I always like to default back to the elements and principles of art, right? Like, wow, that quality of line is really fluid. Or like, whoa, you use this explosion of color, right? It's, you name what it is that you see rather than evaluating it if it's good or if it's bad. And that for them helps them feel like they've been seen, right? Their artwork is seen, I'm really looking at it. Or if I really don't know, which sometimes happens, right? I ask them, can you tell me more about this section here? Or can you give me a little bit more information to help me understand? Okay, so we'll be doing that. Let's go on to our next activity. That is, how many of you know this book? It is an old book. Oh my goodness. Okay, just a few. All right, A Beautiful Oops. This is, because we're an inquiry-based school and our students oftentimes lead what it is that we're working on, I tend not to teach the same projects unless the kids are like, why did 3rd grade get to do that? We want to do that too, so then I'll repeat those ones. But this was one that we started last year, A Beautiful Oops. I don't know, it was written maybe the 90s. But it's a book, I'm going to show it to you in a second, where it essentially goes through what happens if these mistakes happen on your artwork, and the kids, like their brains explode. I'm going to show you it in a second, and then we create some artwork from that. I have this lovely setup I want to share with you what it looks like. Just give me a moment to see how I can toggle. I practice at home, but you know, it's always different when you're in your space. All right, you go over there for a sec. And then you come over here. Hooray! Okay. So here it is, a beautiful oops. We'll read the book together. I do this first through 5th grade. Ah, I showed you too much. Oops, a torn piece of paper, right? And they freak out. They're like, is that book really torn? Did you do that? I'm like, no, it comes that way. But they're like very excited about it. Can't transform, right? It's just the beginning. It becomes a crocodile. And you've got every spill has lots. I'm not going to read you the whole book, but I'll show you some. And lots of possibilities. Bent paper. Oh no, whatever will I do? I don't know how many of you have students who are like, my paper got ripped, I need a new one. Yes, yes, me too. Okay, bent paper, oh no, right? It's something to celebrate. And I love when I show them that he has no head without the head. Oh, little drip of paint. This happens all the time, especially when you're painting. Our tables are a little bit tight. Someone accidentally gets water on someone else's, or their paint, whatever, it happens, right? A little bit of paint lets your imagination run wild. So this has been, and it goes on from there, this has been so changing in our whole kind of school community. I know that they reference it in their other classes too, that when they make a mistake, they know that they use the language of it's just a beautiful oops, and they learn to kind of like roll with it. So of course you're getting into growth mindset with that as well. So today I have for you the project that they do, where I have marked a bunch of papers. They are all different marks, and it's going to be your job to look at them and to kind of turn them in different various ways. You are going to transform these oopses into beautiful oopses. I made a whole bunch, but I wasn't sure how many were here, so I'll show you quickly the way I like to do them fastest. Is I'll like set all the papers out on my biggest table that I have. This is a bingo dogger. Have you guys used this in art before, for art? Yes? Okay. It is just black paint and water mixed together. And then you as teacher, you get to like let your crazy hands go a little bit wild. I try not to do too many things with like 2 dots on them, because they inevitably become eyes. But these are really great to work with. So I'm going to hand out some of these. I'm going to ask for some of you to be helpers with it. Oh, while I have this up, just a quick note on watercolor. When you go to use it, may I borrow your guys' watercolor for a sec? Thank you. Oh, you got water in that one. I'm going to let that one be so I don't spill it. Okay, so we love these watercolors. They're well used. They are not beautiful anymore. My personal watercolor set looks as ugly as this, which is fine. So some of them, the buttons have broken off. You just flip it open. Some of them have an additional button where you can find them. Some of them are missing pieces because they fall, and then they all come out, and then we end up putting them back together in different variations. So a quick tip on how to work with watercolor is you will use tofu containers. Are my favorite water vessel. Do you know why? Anyone else use tofu containers? Yes, why? They are easy to pour. Yes, and behind you as well, yes?
I like the ridges because then after you use it,
Yes, you can totally use the ridges to kind of knock off the extra paint. I like these because they're less likely to spill. They have a lower center of gravity. And my students, I've got tons of them, just ask me, Miss Day, do you eat that much tofu? I'm like, no, but they're great to have. So if you're going to approach this project with watercolor, which you're welcome to do, you want to try to find, I tried to find you guys brushes that were soft and not yet dead for my lovely students. But you want to try to find a brush that's a little bit softer. And then you need to wake up the paint. So the way to wake up a watercolor is you're going to tap onto it. And then rather than jam your brush in it, you're going to imagine like you're tickling it. So you're going to swirl it and tickle the paint away. And that will help you avoid those students that jam in and they get like giant globs on there. These paints I really like a lot because they're actually more gouache, which are dry, rather than those sticky watercolors that the ants always find in Hawaii. I had those ones too. Okay, and then you can go ahead and you can make your artwork from there. So you're welcome to use Sharpies, you're welcome to use your watercolor, you're welcome to use your color pencils. Okay? I'm going to ask for, can I have 2 paper hand wrappers?
She said,
And if we run out, we can.
but I have so many digital. Like brown. It just says maybe between.
Should we order it? I wonder if we have it in the library. Nah, just kidding. There's never anything that I need in the library. Because it's all like the AR.
Hi.
Hey. Like I go in there.
Are your extras any more? Okay.
Yeah, you could always, it would be like, we're gonna have to start. We could always point out something and have them write their own.
How many people still need?
Also, I didn't.
Okay, raise your hand if you still need a paper. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 9. I'm gonna sit down. You're welcome to add anything to it that you want. You're welcome to turn it.
Why, you don't see anything in this one? What's your vision?
And I'm gonna make the new ones with Sharpie because then they're gonna be dried. For you, you're welcome. All right, fast draws. This one. 2.
Nice.
Yeah. Turn them.
Now you're gonna want this one back. I'm just kidding.
I don't want that one.
I know. You cannot switch. When I do it in class, need one more? They're in their assigned seats, so they get what they get.
That was nice too.
I know. Inevitably, we always have like one butt show up.
Oh, it's good.
You know, that's okay. 4th grade humor sometimes. Does everyone have one?
I want to
Yeah.
be before and after.
Keep turning it. If you're stumped for ideas, just shift your perspective on it. Also know, they're oopses, so they're not gonna look like exactly like you're imagining they're gonna be. You gotta like roll with it, go with the flow. We're not looking for perfect art here.
Since it's a second one, it's considered a second because we're not physically labeled as a blender. Yes, which is not what they want. Can you grab the water back? Thank you.
These can be fantastical, kind of like, almost like dreamlike things. We hear laughter. I see people going for it. I see those who are still thinking. That's okay. When in doubt, add some arms. See inspiration from nature.
Take really wake up.
I see some fantastical images.
Need the what?
A long time.
Oh, that's gonna be over here. I'll get there.
planned
I'll
out,
get there.
all planned out.
I'll get there. I'll get there. You know, snakes are my #1 fear. I'm making a snake.
It's about overcoming
Ironic,
fear.
huh?
Yeah, overcoming fear. SEL, right?
Taking ownership.
Yeah.
Is that one of the emotions you're feeling today?
But
Is that one of the emotions?
I might color it in now.
It's for fun, right? We're not looking for masterpieces. We're just looking to create for the fun of creating.
A little bit.
Good call on this one. Thanks.
I got it back. I know.
I do.
Was it brave?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I never had one.
Yeah.
I knew people that did. I didn't go to their house. Yeah, that's sometimes little mice, crickets. Like a little garden snake.
I'm pushing you guys kind of quickly today, so you've got about 2 more minutes on this one.
She's acting just like me already. She's like totally trying to see how I would react.
Kids will be sewing girls for sure. No talking, completely quiet.
Oh, maybe. I'm so fun.
I think I enjoy it.
I feel like I'm looking at her part.
Just email.
Yeah, she mailed it today.
Yeah, there's one to happening the 20th.
I bet you best I can't find it. Like, come on.
30, yeah. I couldn't, I just couldn't. I was like, oh, we came up again. Then I'm at
If anyone is a tech guru,
What's the big one?
gladly receive your help. Stuck.
Oh, Gary Devils.
Stuck with what?
that committee.
Stuck on this
Or you
screen.
see Ricky
Can
Roberts.
try.
Back to this.
I'm not a proclaimed tech.
That's okay. Yes, thank you.
I finished writing and then I like already did something like that.
This is so good. I'm sure you guys took it. It's an event and it's working.
Sorry.
Now it's like he says when the need has something to so crowd. Which I think is perfect for play. I've got to have her teach me
I could teach you too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You need one.
Yeah, and also for her son.
So now she can do it.
Yeah, and also for Pharrell stuff.
This little balloon.
No, not Pharrell.
out of it.
Yeah, but you're such an overachiever.
Ready? Snap back. Snap back. Okay. All right. How are you feeling? Having created something that you were forced to kind of think creatively with. Was there any fear that got right to you initially? Yes, I see nothing about it. Yes. So this practice, right, similar with any practice, you get better at it when you do it more and more often. So we've done this work, I don't know, maybe 3 times. That's what they're doing today while I'm here, is they're doing another beautiful oops, knowing that they can always find something new to create with it. And it's something that shows up wherever and whenever it is that we're working. It's a mindset. And so when I say you have to have a beautiful oops mindset about it, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So here are some of their images that they've created. This is a first grader who was very hesitant about drawing anything. So for him, taking like a literal, like making it into a maze was a wonderful application for him. This was a second grader who I thought for sure they're all going to get a bunch of 5s because it kind of looks like a 5. But he actually transformed it into this elephant creature. This is a 5th grader who the group of them decided they were going to collaborate and have their drawings interact with one another. So they all did their own beautiful oopses, but then it turned into this narrative, in part because we're creating space for them to explore, right? I didn't tell you you had to use particular materials. I didn't tell them they had to do it independently, and I kind of took that, and since they've known me since first grade, and they're now in 5th grade, they know they have that latitude when they come to art that they can explore more freely. And I love this little girl. She's a 2nd grader. She's a perfectionist, and so this was like great. She was working with paint. It's a little bit messy. It was a huge growth for her. So I'm going to move from that. So tied to this idea of building confidence, always usually in the beginning of the year, I like to start more with abstract artworks, right? Just like we heard, you want to create success initially for them. So doing something more abstract is going to help for them feel like they have ownership of what they're doing and build some of their confidence. This is one thing that we did earlier this year where they did not use any paint brushes. They actually used little chips of cardboard with primary colors, but Tip used magenta, cyan, and yellow, not red, dark blue, and yellow, because you'll get more vibrant hues from that. So we talked more about like digital art colors versus analog. And then from their big papers that they created, and you can see some of them were really careful, right? They wanted to make as many colors as they wanted. Others of them were really into like that kinesthetic motion of like, I need to mix all of the paints possible. Look what happens when I scrape it really hard. Look what happens when it gets really globby. And so that's something that you've got to think about for your own spaces. What's appropriate for them? How far can they push it? From there, we ended up transforming them into these abstract compositions. These are just, I bought them on Amazon for not a lot. They're just little mats. And so they could figure out where they wanted to put it, and if they wanted to keep it a little bit more in the abstract world, or if they wanted to do something that was a little bit more to their interest. So this student, this was the before and the after. He ended up creating one of his characters that he loves to create. Okay. It's your turn. We already did it. Great. All right. Now we're going to move on towards more mindful practices. I would argue every art practice is a mindful practice, but some of these are just a little bit more specific. Do you guys know carbon paper?
Yes.
Yes, I was just meeting with teacher candidates and they've never seen it before. Carbon paper, right? The one, yes, right? There's a dark side, a light side. You can trace onto it, so tracing that. Felting, we're going to get to in a moment. Zentangle hands, blind and long line drawings. We'll look at those, nature, and then just like repetitive shapes with watercolor. So here are some of our mindful drawings. These are my 5th graders. We do a meditation. It has to be silent when they're doing this. And tell them to try to feel their pen as it's moving across the page. Try to notice what your breath is doing. Try to notice your reaction when it does something that you don't want it to do. Is that their internal moment of freak out, and how do you handle that? How do you keep moving with it? This was just black paper with white gel pens on top of it. Drawing from nature has such a special place in my heart. My art practice is most connected to this. That's what I like to do, is to go out and draw what I see. So they actually recently completed these. They took the pictures themselves. We're a one-to-one iPad school, so they have that capability to take their own images. And then from there, they came back into the art studio, and they were challenged to use a Sharpie, not a pencil, to take the challenge and try to see if they could go with the flow to keep the beautiful oops mindset, to be open to it. And some of them didn't want to, and I didn't force them, right? They could also choose pencil, but then I told them, after you're done with pencil, you have to then go trace back over it, which is going to take you double the time. And then some of them made some different decisions. Like, I want to get to that open studio time too, so I'm going to try the Sharpie first. So you can see some age ranges. This is a second grader. This one is a first grader. This is one of our fifth graders. And this is a fourth grader as well. So that idea of trying to keep your pen connected to the page as long as you can, because when you lift up, then comes the moment of self-doubt and worry of like, I messed up the proportion of that house. It doesn't look anything like that, right? But if you know you're trying to make as long lines as possible, you kind of just got to like give into the process and be okay with it, however it is that it looks. So that's one thing we have for them, as well as syncing your eye and your hand together. We talk a lot about how PE and art sometimes relate in this way. How if you can be mindful of the way your eyes are moving, can your hands move at the same speed? And sometimes we even practice like in the air, tracing the shapes that we see to help kind of get that coordination going. These are their hands. They did this year. This is my fifth graders. There are so many resources out there about mindful drawing, so I'm not going to do too much about that. Particularly Zentangles. They love finding all the different patterns. They loved the ability to use more of kind of abstract color mixing in the background that either could relate to who they were or didn't, or just what they wanted to create that day. And then this is a blind drawing. A blind drawing is where you only look at the object, you don't look at the paper. So you're guaranteed that it's going to not look like the thing you're drawing, which is not really the point. And then you get these like interesting ideas based off of what your eyes were seeing, and it kind of takes that pressure off that it has to look a certain way. So blind drawing, we have fun with. Again, drawing from nature. We have these lovely croton leaves in our school, where they each selected one. They ended up tracing them and then drawing the colors that they could see in them. Colors are, to me, feel so meditative, right? There's something about working with color that just lets us breathe for a moment. Okay, your turn. So we're going to do some watercolor. I'm going to try to get my iPad to show again. Let's see if I can do it. And while I'm doing this, why don't you find a brush, make sure you've got water-ish near you, and then ask for a few other helpers. New helpers this time to distribute.
I need water in my water bottle, so I'm using your water for sharing my hydration.
I feel like art. I'm sure this is enough fun. See how far that's
Great water. I'm trying to divide it to go to things.
Ooh, good.
Anybody else?
Do a full circle.
Do I have more watercolors? Oh, I do not. I do have, however, this lovely spray thing. So if you want to like spray down your watercolors, okay. So you have a few options in how you approach this. Right? You can choose to work just strictly with watercolor. I'm so sorry, I have to steal your materials. show. Okay. All right. When you go to do your watercolor, you can either choose to do a wet technique, where you get your paper wet first, which is going to allow you to have a lot more color bleeding and blending. Or you can choose to do the more dry technique, where you keep your paper more dry and then you add as you go. You have the option to add pen before or after. It is up to you. Because I love drawing, I'm going to start with my pen first. And I was like, how can I get nature into here? My lovely principal sent me a picture of this room, and I was like, the floor has nature on it. So if you want to look down, you can. I'm going to look down right now. I'm going to do a blind drawing. So I'm not really going to look at my paper too much. So it's going to be like an interpretation of what I'm seeing in one of my these lovely carpet tiles that are in front of us. Every once in a while I do kind of peek to make sure I'm not totally off my page, but okay, let me see if there's some chevron-y things. You don't have to do this. You can just also go straight into watercolor. And then once you have, and you're ready, either blank or with drawing, right, you're going to wake up your paints. I'm going to show you the wet technique first. So this lovely water has already been used. I might get a tinge of green to it. That's fine with me. I'll go ahead, I'll get it wet, and then I'm going to wake up my color. I tickle it. I don't jam it in there. And then to it, I can just add it. And you can see it starts to spread kind of naturally. The color will go anywhere that it's wet. Students love when it creates this like tie-dye effect. You'll hear like the audible like, oh, how does that happen? So as you're working, right, just explore, have fun, either creating something abstract or creating something that looks like, resembles something. It's up to you. Okay? All right.
Anything? Or is it plants?
Store your water.
Okay. No.
You're like, okay.
Does anyone not have a brush? Do you have extra brushes? Yes.
No, it will smudge. It will cut the paper. Wow. 16 hours ago. I'm like,
Oh, you don't have any?
and now I'm insurance. That's so fun. Isn't that weird that she just did that last night?
Kindergarten teachers?
I don't know how long.
I'm in Kamala E and Key.
Oh, there's a couple.
Yeah. Super crazy early.
What is that? Get it. Come on, embrace your fears. Look at it. You can do it too. You got this. I want to race. I can tell. You're just sketchy with it right now. Are you visualizing it? It is good.
And seeing things that are both look like stuff and also don't look like stuff. Both are great. I'm seeing some people who are feeling ambitious and being a risk taker, doing some blind drawing. It's hard. So good job if you're trying.
Oh, of course.
See, we're sharing materials. Thank you. Something I like to share with my students when they're creating, just don't think too hard. Okay? Don't think too hard. Just enjoy it. Yeah, look at these beautiful color mixes.
I like it.
If you want really saturated color, really tickle that brush in there with water to get it to go. That's when you'll get those kids that like jam it in because they want it to be brighter.
I hope you don't.
It was being a drama queen about it earlier, but I'm not. I'm okay with it.
Oh, you need your water.
It did sense.
Yeah, but I'm just I'm just. I'm not sure.
Oh,
I like drawing and painting, so I'm really extending this part out. That looks really good. Yes, it does. You were there for nothing. Is that funny guy? Yeah.
Take about 5 more minutes.
Yeah. Was Abbey? Find that and show that. It's hard. Oh, I know. He draws the big monkey ears, right? Yes. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I remember seeing it.
So many bright colors.
In the middle of the and then he always asks me, was I in your class? I'm like, seriously? Stop asking me. I said, no, you were in my class. Just knock it off. Like, he just wants to mess with me.
Looked up emotional okay. Yeah, there is no.
Sometimes, no, I still have that. Still like that.
But yeah, there's some. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Wow, we have so many varied artists in here.
Yeah.
All right, try to put your last touches on it for now. I know this would usually be like a whole hour-long project for you to explore, to just little pieces of things. As you guys were creating, what were some of the things that you observed either in yourself, in the room, in the process of creating? Start, I heard like humor, laughing, connection in that way on tables, so there was that I noticed.
It's so inspiring.
Inspiring, which parts are inspiring?
Just the creation process and the watercolors and how easy it is to, I kind of think I was shamed at school. I'm not an artist. And I was wow, it's so cool.
Yeah. Like the freedom of being able to explore in the process. Good.
Yeah, right.
Someone should buy it, yes.
We got quit our day job.
Other things, yes.
Relaxing of inhibition.
A relaxing of your inhibitions, right? Like just letting the process go.
All right, now you're really testing my skills here. Hold on. I mean,
Even just relaxing in general. Do you feel a little bit more calm? Yes, good. Yes. Sometimes I have classes that come in straight from recess, and they come in like so hot. There's like been an argument over here. This one's upset about kickball, and whatever it is. So we take a moment, similar to what we did, like 1 minute, just to breathe. And then we do something like this. It doesn't even have to be this. It could be whatever the day's project was. But the fact that it's art, they leave a lot happier than they were when they came in, because they've had a moment to just kind of like be and like let go and not have to do things exactly the way that they've been told to do them.
I had a big one on feeling refreshed, like, because like the whole AI thing's been totally blowing me away during this workshop.
Yes.
And it really grounded me out, like, connecting to just being. I think that's going to be super important in this next little time period.
Yes, the humanness of art is like
One of the
AI, and I've played with Dolly. Dolly's the image one, yes. I played with that, and I was like, ooh, maybe it can help me come up with these ideas that usually I would have to design by hand. It's not quite there yet, but even when it does, there's something that's in your physical making that cannot be replicated. And especially when you look at it, right? Why do we go to museums and don't just look at Google Images? Because there's something about the materiality of it that AI cannot replicate. Yeah. Okay, we've been doing this throughout, but art to foster community building, to foster teamwork. We'll look through collaborative drawings and murals. We'll talk a little bit about get to know you drawings. I wonder if anyone kind of heard my language as I was walking around. Just like picking up on like some of the observations that were happening in your individual artworks. I love it. It makes my heart soar when students compliment each other's work. And then if I hear that, then I shout that out to everyone so they know that that's a behavior that I want to keep hearing and seeing. Like, that's amazing, Liliana, you saw how hard this person worked on their drawing, right? And then we'll get into felting later. Okay, this is another like beginning of the year project if you're looking to build your community throughout the year, whatever it is. Anything that's important to you. They were challenged, they could use pencil this time. You notice this girl, they were challenged to even try to do the one long line drawing if they wanted to. So she met that challenge. The question was something important to you. She drew her family. This student, he is in 3rd grade now. He's always had a sense of humor. He tends to get in trouble for that, but in art, he soars, right? So he's created, oh, I wish I could remember the name. This Darth Dog or something like that, this combination of ideas. And then the student as well, experimenting with her own illustrative style about her family, brother, or cats. These things, they seem so silly to like me as like artist, but they really help them. I use my bingo dauber or the paint sticks. Have you guys seen these paint sticks before? Yay, we love paint sticks. Yeah, they're like paint that almost dry immediately. They look like glue sticks. You have to tell your students the first few times that they're not going to stick anything together if they look exactly the same. But using your big butcher paper, create something. These are from summer school classes where we're having a parade, or I don't remember. But creating something where they each can then help to color it. They love it. And it like helps them work together and figure out, rather than me being that student in my 1st grade class coloring the wrong way, right? We find some space for them all to put their own ideas in it. Yeah, my 1st grade teacher, we were not using all these colors. I think we were using gray, and that was it. This is another project that we did, individual to collaborative. This is last winter. We were inspired by Tibetan prayer flags. They each made their own prayer that they wanted to send into the wind. We're right in the valley of Manoa, so we have a lot of wind, a lot of rain. We've done some research about that earlier in the semester, and then we hung them all up so that way their one becomes one of many. And it was just so beautiful. We also did it in collaboration with our high school photography students. As you can see on the bottom here, they printed theirs. We just used, you can buy fabric paint, but you don't have to. You can just use acrylic paint. It's like the same thing. You probably get a little and Sharpie. That was it. I'm sure you've seen the wings. Yes, it's like all over, all the things. But again, something that's individual that becomes part of something deeper and greater. This was one year where each grade level did a different color, and then I put them all together to create our own wings. You don't have to do this intensely though. That's just because like it became part of my art too. So this is my daughter and her preschool. They did the same idea. You don't have to do it as intensely, right? But the one that then becomes something collaborative. And even if I've seen this 1,000 times on Instagram and Pinterest and whatnot, you make it your own. This is an example of collaborative drawing and painting where they were not allowed to use traditional materials. So a giant piece of paper, and they had to create their own tool and then figure out how they were all going to work together on this one composition. Quite honestly, it didn't go further than this, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes like thinking maybe it could turn into something else, but it was like, no, this was all that this little experiment was. And that's okay. In COVID, when we couldn't be together, each student, this was a 5th grade, 5th grade is usually 2 classes divided into 3. It was a mess. But each of them created their own flower that represented them on digital art. And then, but you don't have to do this digitally, right? You could do this on paper. And then we put it together to create their own clay that represented their class. So it's just like a beautiful, you could really go metaphor with that in discussion. Same thing, this is clay, textures coming into a whole. This is a fun project. Our 3rd and 4th grade spent a lot of time on Hawaiian studies and history. We created each of our classes' own mini island where each student made their own ahupua'a. So they had to work together to make sure they actually all fit together. And some of them had like deals with like, we're neighbors, so I'm gonna have the fishing village and you're gonna have like the lo'i over there. So it was a fun experiment to see how they could do it. And then finally, something that doesn't take any materials at all, but does take your voices, is talking about art. So my background before I got into the classroom was my work-study job in college was at my college's art museum. And I got to do like a few little tours with school groups that would come. And I was hooked by that feeling of like togetherness and aha moments and building off one another's ideas to get to a deeper understanding of something, which led me down the path of museums and whatnot. Went back to the classroom, but there's so much power in listening to one another and discussing art that we're gonna do this together. Oh, it's so hard to see, but you'll have to do your best. Okay, we're gonna take 30 silent seconds just to observe the artwork. So you're just gonna observe it. If you've got little kids, it's the hardest part, right? They just want to share immediately. Shh. Just observe for 30 seconds. Notice what you can see. What do we see? If you were to describe this painting to someone in another session, what would you tell them is there? I am going to need your voices for this, so don't be shy, okay? What do you see? What do you see?
I see a triangle of people.
Good. Triangle of people. Thank you. What else do we see? What else do we see? Yes.
Maybe a story. I see someone trying to cheat, maybe.
Okay. So it seems like there's some kind of narrative happening here. We're going to get to your evidence in a moment. What else do we see? Yes, in the back.
A light source.
A light source. Ooh, yes. There's a light source coming in over here. Good. What else do we see?
That it's from a different era.
In their hair, yes. They're wearing, look at their fancy clothes, right? They've got a feather and a cap. You can't really see it. This other person over here has a very floppy dark hat on as well. Good. What else do you see? Yes.
I see a line, if you follow his eyes to his eyes to his eyes down to the car.
Yes. We see there's a line that we can trace with their perspectives, their eyes. Good. What else might we see here? Yes, what do you see?
Like his two fingers, how they make a V, and then you see the V throughout all the other artwork. Just his fingers.
Where else do you see V's?
Like his arm, how it's bent, and then the line underneath the hands being held the card.
Good.
So just repeated in the arm, blue arm down.
Coming down over here too. Excellent. So excellent. We're seeing the angles, the visual repetitiveness that's here too. Yes, we see.
If we divide it in half, this side's dark and this side's light.
Ah, very good. Okay, so we've got a play of light too. We've got a lot darker over here and got a lot lighter over there. What do we notice about their clothing? Let's do some more about their clothing. What do you notice about the way they're dressed?
It's from a different era.
What do you notice about the way they're dressed?
The texture of it, you can look at it and feel it.
Yes, it's like sumptuous. You can almost feel the texture of their clothing. Good. What else do we notice about their clothing?
In the back has like stripes and dark, and then the two other men have like one's really dark and one has stripes.
Excellent. Okay, so there is a visual connection here. This person's got stripes. This person also has stripes. Different variation, but they're certainly connected there. Good. Yes?
They look like they're not poor. They look like they might be wealthy, aristocratic, or something like that.
Good. Okay, so they're like definitely they have some means. But is that true? Is there any evidence you see that would go against that?
I think that they are of a higher class, but I think that all three of them are different. It's like they're not all equal.
What evidence do you see that makes you say that?
The feather,
The feather,
the
yes.
material of the vest of the guy in the back, and then the just one color of the boy looking at his cards.
The fact that there's no color.
Yeah, like there's
no color.
Because back in that time, the color cost money
Yeah.
to produce, so.
Yes, good.
So that was a sign of wealth, was about how much color you had.
Excellent. So then your clothing represented your wealth if you had color in it or not. Can you guys notice, I know it's hard to see if we're in a darkened space or in front of the painting, can you see his glove? What's going on with his glove there?
He's got one hole in
He's got a hole in his glove. Yes, they're right. They're dressed all like they've got a lot of money, but there's like something else going on here where it's like not quite as it is that we see.
Even the expressions too, like they're all different, but the one with the dark line stripe is looking like over the shoulder of the other one.
Yes.
Like I feel like he's always looking in the shadowy part.
Good, good. Yes, the eye lines are so important. In the back and in the front, yes.
Is he holding something behind his back?
Is he holding something behind his back?
There's a card back there.
Oh, there's a card over here for the people in the back. There's a card over here. There's also something over here that you guys can't see as well.
Is that a knife?
It's a dagger. Yeah, he's got a dagger on too. And of course, like different times, you know, maybe it doesn't mean anything, but we do definitely see it. Yes.
I would think the guy in the dark is wealthier because of his lace trim, and his clothes may be a little more updated. These could be a bit more ancient.
Okay, this looks a little bit like it's more of fashion. These ones look a little bit older. And we know certainly something is older because his glove is falling apart. Yes.
And the same thing, he also, the guy on the left almost looks so confident and arrogant, and the guy on the right looks more boyish and more innocent and
This one looks more
mischievous.
innocent.
Yeah.
Mischievous. Okay, I'm gonna like step out of facilitator role for a second. Kind of, we'll walk through it as teacher. So when the students look at this, and you can do this a few ways, I've also done it before where you show them like a little bit of the image at a time, right? You expand it out and they start to build that narrative. They always look to this one and they're like, is that a boy or a girl? That's a really interesting question because this face is like so very soft and angelic and like you can really get into the colors of it. I also like to always point out to them, and they usually come to it, that these two are connected. You guys picked up on it that they both have stripes. So there's some kind of working together there visually the artist is telling us about that we can then go ahead and interpret the rest of the artwork with. I can talk about art all day long. But I hope, did you feel like excited to like investigate and contribute your ideas and build off of each other's ideas? Great, okay. You could do this with anything. This artwork just happens to be really good and quick because there's so much going on with it. But you could have this same process outside. You could choose any artwork from museums. Yes?
Do kids ever get frustrated? They want to know what the story is, and there is no answer because you're just looking at a picture.
Yeah.
We don't know what that
Yes.
artist was doing. So, like, I want to know the ending. I want to know what it truly is
Right.
about.
Yeah, so sometimes it does happen, and they really want to know, and sometimes you as teacher know like what the title is, or you've read the didactic information about it, and so it's nice to give them that information if you have it, but first start with their ideas first, because it's going to help them brainstorm more together, and then you can drop it in and then get their reaction to it. Yes.
Or you can spin it off and say, like, write the story that this picture's telling.
Yes, yeah, write the
It doesn't
title
have
for
to be the
this,
same
right,
story as the person
exactly.
around it.
Exactly, yeah. Which if you wanted to do that, right, it keeps it even more open. But you do sometimes have those moments where you're like, this is such a cool story, I want to be able to tell it to you too, and that's okay too. So either approach, I think, is valuable.
Is it Caravaggio?
Yes, sorry, this is Caravaggio. The title is The Card Sharps. So the two were in cahoots to rob the young, precious boy of his wealth. And Caravaggio has his own, like, sordid history. There's lots of it. Okay. Super fun. All right, we're going to move into more of the self-inquiry, which we've started a little bit with. Self-portraits can be really intimidating to kids, right? If you do self-portraits, you can take it more of an abstract way. It does not have to be so linear. I would never start the year with a self-portrait. We always scaffold up to it first. And I know teachers love having self-portraits up in their classrooms because it looks so cute, but it can be really hard for them, like emotionally. It's like one of the first things you're doing is confronting yourself and putting it up on the wall. So I do them, but it takes us some time to get there and build our community first. This one on the left is kind of unique. So because I have them 1st through 5th grade, it's the one project I do repeat every year. By the time they're in 5th grade, they get all of their works back. And they can see how they've grown, both as an artist and how they've changed physically over time. So this was this is a young girl. This was her 1st grade portrait. This was her 5th grade portrait. So in some years I let them look back, and some years I decide they have to just like start fresh because there's benefits to both of them and both like wanting to improve, but also have a whole fresh take on it. This is my classroom. This is during open studio time. So when I teach lessons, I have them for an hour and a half, which is a huge luxury. But I design, especially for younger elementary, I design for the project to take about 45 to 50 minutes, and then there's some of those kids that want to work the whole way through. But then the rest of the time they're moving into open studio, almost like an atelier style. so they can choose the things that they want to work on, which is a form of self-inquiry, right? I hate drawing, but I love building Legos, right? Or like, I want to work together with my friend who I'm never allowed to sit with because we're always separated. Finally, we have a chance to like do something together. Open Studio is probably the thing, if you were to ask my students, that they love the most about art, because it's just time that they can be free. So tools like this, materials like this, otherwise you can see. These are just straws and connectors. Things that build big are going to inevitably bring the community more together. You're going to have teamwork happening without you having to do anything about it. You just provide the material and they're going to make it happen. So silly. This, and pull just a few images of students. This is one of my 5th graders since he was in kindergarten. He's been obsessed with dinosaurs. Rather than trying to get him to expand a little bit during Open Studio, I just let him lean into it. So he's super happy coming and creating all these different forms of dinosaurs. I desperately want to put one of them on a t-shirt because I just love them so much. This is a student who hates drawing, hates writing, but does love building. So he finds a lot of his success here. I might not get him to do anything in our project, but we're trying, and then he knows that he's got this time of open space where he can do what he wants to do. And same with these 2 girls, the old photo. But having that time to create connections with each other. I have a lot of students who like to work collaboratively on their own Open Studio projects. These were gratitude artworks from a few years ago from our character education class. Another form of self-inquiry. They could choose any medium they wanted to, so long as there was some kind of repetitiveness to it. So someone did like a puzzle piece and said they were grateful for travel and fairies and air and whatnot. It's a great little meditation for them. And it was hard because they had to find so many different things to find gratitude for. Okay, this is like a very big, back to our big overview. We're into the part where I want to give you guys time to do our last project, and that is needle felting. This is a medium that is new to me in the last 4 or 5 years. I'd seen it when I worked at the museum. There was an artist that did it, was curious about it, and we found so much love and success in our students. When I told them I was coming today and I wasn't going to haul all the felting things, they told me I had to. So they're here. These are, you're going to be working with wool.
You need to come on and start.
It's carded, so it's been cleaned, and it comes in a variety of colors. So I'm going to show you how to do this. There's something about the softness of this material that brings a softness to the space, like the experience of making it. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of helping each other out that ends up coming from this. I know that there's certainly articles that are written about like the inherent quality of material. I feel like this is a very powerful quality that you can integrate into your spaces, whether it's a classroom or other space. So this is the majority of what my second semester in my 5th grade character education revolves around, is for them to take some time to notice the character strengths and gifts in others and reflect on it themselves. They eventually choose one. They share that gift at our graduation, our elementary graduation. And this is a wonderful resource, the periodic table of character strengths. There's a wonderful video that goes along with it from letitripple.org. Super great. But so they'll choose one of these character strengths, and I'll choose perspective, for example. And then from their selection, they end up creating, these were my perspective eyes last year. So they end up creating a symbol that represents their gift. We have a ceremony about it where we like take something with us from elementary and leave something behind. But that process of creating, they're supposed to be demonstrating their gift as well. So if your gift is humor, we better see your humor as you're making. Or if your gift is perseverance, like show it and share it with others. So would you like to try needle felting? Yes? Okay. Okay, that's for the ends. Let me just switch on over real quick. So I did forget, I've remembered everything else, but I did forget my Band-Aids. So you're gonna work carefully, which is Also, a great practice of mindfulness. I think you'll notice as you start going that you're very mindful about how you're moving. So let's get into that. You'll each be needing a piece of foam, and I'm going to show you how to do, there's 2 different techniques. The first is a little bit lower stakes, less likely to poke yourself. The second, there's a greater chance of it. So the first is creating almost like, this is like a patch. So you would start with a piece of felt, just like flat sheet felt, okay? And then if you want to, right, you can draw out your design onto it. Anyone got an inspiration?
Christmas tree.
A Christmas tree? Okay. As you can see, I always do cactuses. Like, I'm always into the nature and the cactuses. But great, let's do a Christmas tree. All right, so I've got kind of my template here for it. And then we have, I had to hide this from my art club because they would have devoured it before today. These are all different little packages of roving. So it's called roving, R-O-V-I-N-G. And they come in different little colors. They're like, kind of like fluff. They're lovely. So if I want my Christmas tree to be this combination of, we'll say, this minty green and this army green, and I'll find something for an ornament. Then, what I'm going to do is treasured box of needles. These are needle felting needles. They are different than sewing needles. So these needles, as you can see, there's no hole in the back. They have little ribs on them. Can you see it if I angle it? Little barbs that go in the opposite direction. What that does is when you're poking it, it helps to mat the fiber together. If anyone has like a dog or cat with a lot of long hair, same idea, right? When their hair gets all matted, it kind of clumps up. So we're purposefully clumping our fiber here. So, put you off to the side. When you go to work with it, you want to imagine like you're handling cotton candy. So if you pull really hard, it's actually going to resist you. You have to be gentle, which again, like a mindful practice of being calm. It'll come off in its little fibers. There's also a lot of sharing that happens here because this is actually quite a lot. It goes a really long way, especially when you're working flat like this. Okay, so if I want, say I want to put it on my tree here. Shall I zoom? Okay. You want to put on your chair, you move your fingers away from the needle. Don't let them go in. Okay. Your needle is kind of like your guide to where you're going to poke. So I'm going to just start poking it in place. As I'm doing this, it's bonding into the felt underneath. The sound is like also very satisfying. They love it. I've had students made time lapses of this before. If you want to make like a sharp angle, right? I want to get like the top, the pokey part of the tree. I'm going to pull it down a little bit and I'm going to use my needle to help guide and then poke it into place. And you literally just keep going. And I keep using my needle to help kind of guide where my fluff is going. Let's see. Christmas tree is a little hard because it's got so many sharp angles. Which you have to use your beautiful oops mindset to go with the flow. And then if you've got these little like stray hairs that come off to the side, right, you just help with your needle. You pull it back down and in. You see it taking shape? Yes? Okay. So you would keep going. And every once in a while, you want to lift it off because you don't want it to be stuck to the foam for forever. You can see the back, how it's kind of beginning to knot in with each other. If you want to make like small little like eyes or details or something like that, you would start almost like you would with clay. So I've taken just like the teeniest, tiniest bit. I'm going to literally roll it in my palm and get it to be kind of the shape that I want it to be first. And then once I've gotten it rolled, and it's going to be too big right now, but then once I start to poke it into place and I keep using my needle to help guide it more internal to where I want the shape to be, then it'll work for me. when you're all done, then you're gonna cut it out. Do not cut before because you need this space for your fingers to be, so you don't poke them. So when you're all done, then you'll cut out. I leave like a little border. I've had students literally put it on their backpacks and whatnot. If you're a lefty, I didn't forget about you. I have one pair of lefty scissors here. And then, so I'm gonna give you guys some time to experiment with this. I'm hoping I have enough foam for you guys to work with. If not, maybe take a few turns. And then the extension on this is you can start to work three-dimensionally the other cactus. I have a there it is. Okay. This was a three-dimensional cactus. And so if you want to try to work through, if you've never, has anyone done this before? Okay, great. Well, if you're like, I want to just go for it, and you want to work three-dimensionally, I have, like, this would be like your base because it takes so much of that color to get into a form. A nice project, the first one I used or created was an owl because it's just round, which also happens to work well for my school. But you would kind of form it first in your hand. Start with a circle first, start with a ball. Let's don't get too complicated yet. And then you keep rotating it. This is where one of my second graders poked her finger because she wasn't paying attention. She's okay, but you need to be mindful of what you are doing, and you keep rotating, poking it into place. There are tools that they have where, for artists who want to make bigger things, where there's like 7 needles in one. I had one of those ones. They had a lot of questions about if that was like a torture device or not, but it's just for making it go a little bit faster. But we're just going to use single needles today. And then once you have the shape that you want, same thing, you would add details to it. So I've got a little piggy. These tiny little eyebrows, literally just like a wisp, a wisp of your fiber in order to create it. Yes, it's from right. So you have the option to work flat. You have the option to work in the round. The more you poke it, the firmer it's going to get. The more you poke it and the firmer it's going to get, you have the possibility that your needle will break because it will like strike something and change the angle. It's going to break it. It's okay, it happens. But do try to just go in and out in the same direction so you're not changing the angle as you work. But you'd have to be poking for a while for that to happen. Okay, brainstorm. What is it that you want to make? Go ahead and throw some felt onto each table. These are scraps of this project we did last year. So I'll call it needle felting. Needle felting. Yeah. It's just
I just went to my class. I actually didn't finish my sub-plans, so I just went to my class. What color do you like? You're
When you're ready, maybe one table representative can come up and get the phone.
Where's yours? Jeanette, come on.
Oh my gosh. No, like the visual work presentation. I just need one. Yeah, I haven't been using my phone.
All right. Who's feeling like a pastor? Feels like a handful on Alright, I will come give you a needle finger. The roping is on its way. Remember a little bit buckle. When we do this in the classroom, they have to store their needle in the foam, like they have to poke it into it. Because otherwise, I don't want my little first graders finding them on the floor later.
It's the flat version like Breakout.
Thank you.
Yeah, start with that. You can always add more.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so pull it apart like you're trying to get a tiny bit of
Who's that?
spread the fiber around and start putting the needles. Good. Oh, yes. Sarah, there's some more of those.
I really love my training. Art is my passion. Always my passion.
Now you're gonna get something for you.
I cannot take it for you.
Perfect. Water. Green apple. There's no red. Which apple that's
Oh, sorry.
Broken ones back in the back.
She's going back.
Lost my screen, went somewhere else.
I don't know if I have like a sufficient amount, how does
You have a solution?
no, a sufficient amount.
Oh, just start, and then if you need more,
It's like,
yeah, just go for it. Awesome. If you happen to find them. You need needles, okay. I know some of you are still waiting on needles, and I apologize.
Okay. There's the doctor right there. No, you broke your needle already.
Okay, I know there's 2 tables here. Yes, come in.
We get partners sometimes, and then they kind of fall together. When I do pottery, like they do your own play with my class.
That's okay.
Yeah, see, we don't have that.
She would throw that corner.
One more in the corner. Yes? Okay. Oh, yes, it happens. That's great.
That's for you.
Do you have one?
I have one now.
One more?
That's what I was thinking.
I'll be the first to admit that I already wrote. That's okay. It happens. You guys tell me those. You're okay. It's okay. It happens. Oh, you're welcome.
Well, I do fundraise, and I do open it up for the kids and get free. But I think I'm gonna start
So scary, you might poke your head.
No, I think it's third. This project third. Oh, you have already. Oh, yeah. Anyone need a needle? The goods?
So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to open my scanning table for like fancier stuff. I have some things that you can read.
That's okay, it's okay.
It's scary. Yeah. Seems like you're gonna poke yourself.
Honestly, it's kind of therapeutic though. Oh no! You should try it. Come on. Here, stab this a little bit. Come on.
It's okay, I'm fine. I went to the restroom, so it's So, a question about the foam pieces. I used to
Really?
use the foam pieces from like sound canceling foam, and they came in two, and I just like stacked them. These happen to be our school got new paper roll, whatever things, and these were in the boxes. I was like, yes, these are a perfect application. So where did they come from?
Please throw them.
We're on
Get the new one? I think I'm not doing it because I don't see anything at the other side.
Oh, no, it is, okay. Breakout, right.
Listen to that poking sound.
Maybe it's the
You need more needles? Come up to me. If you're looking for the roving, take a walk around.
Probably though. I hate to say it. Yeah, right.
And you know what? Some of them. Thank you.
Oh, last night? Yeah. Yeah. We did.
Continue.
I mean, I think they're good. Those ones are good. No, I'm just kidding.
I want to stay with He's spreading their company, so he has to do that. And when it is safe.
But it was,
I know, this taking a lot of time.
Brad normally does, but he was.
Yes, yes.
Oh, no.
We can't even get mad at him.
It broke. Oh, no, that was just with some coworkers at Chili's. So, like a stone.
14 when she was coming.
No, like I didn't
There was
ask.
like nothing I could do. I was trying
I had all the challenges.
Now you're gonna look for it. Now you're gonna
These are like 6.
exactly. that means I just gotta look at it every time. Trying to figure it out. His eyes are red.
Used to be way more complicated.
No, it was good though. We hung out for a while.
As like a future, like next
We were actually talking. She likes really big.
the one that
We were talking about last you guys know it? Oh, the big one.
oh, no,
What's that? Did you go in like Hope Brennan? Like Hope Brennan? That's like the real. That's like the real.
She give you a new one when you broke?
Yeah. She gave me a new one.
I like doing that. That's what we would do for the check-ins. All the check-ins, we would do that. I don't think they do. Not because it's like, because it's all the parking structure.
Wait till you do the parking lot.
Well, people actually, you know, because that one side is that is kind of along the parking structure. So people actually park on like the third floor and just sit there and watch the game.
I'm so scared.
No,
They can watch the game.
my boy years, I would not, like postures, I would not.
It's good. Yeah, they have to do their
It's almost not the
when I say art, you say rocks? Art? Art? Okay, I just want to be mindful of time. I know that lunch is in less than 5 minutes. So, as you guys are working,
For the second
try
session.
again. If you can hear me, clap once.
Yeah.
If you can hear me, clap twice. Make your hands stop moving for a second. Okay. Before you leave, if you want to provide any feedback, this is the first time I'm doing a presentation like this, but clearly there's interest for it. So if there is anything that you're particularly excited about or concerned about or have questions, if you would let me know on the Hoova app, just as a comment, that would be really helpful feedback for me. The last thing I kind of wanted to end with was this quote, that the power of art is that it can connect us to one another and to the larger truths about what it means to be alive and what it means to be human. So having the time to both self-reflect, to be in community with people, to have that flexibility and freedom is so important to all being human, being connected. And I think I set you guys up with these